Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers, and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
You ever watch a franchise stand at the edge of something massive where every decision feels like it could either launch them into greatness or send everything crashing down? That's exactly where the Philadelphia Phillies are right now, and nobody's talking about the real story behind all this. This isn't just about one player or one trade or one offseason move. This is about a team trying to squeeze every last drop out of a championship window that's closing faster than anyone wants to admit. Alec Boehm has become the center of this entire conversation. And honestly, it's fascinating how one player can carry so much weight. He's simultaneously the guy they're counting on to save their lineup and the guy whose name pops up in every trade rumor. Think about that tension for a second. The front office is publicly saying they believe in him, that they expect him to bounce back, that last season's struggles were entirely injury-related. But at the same time, his name is attached to every big trade scenario that comes across Dave Dombrowski's desk. So which is it? Is Boehm the internal solution they're betting on, or is he the trade chip they'll eventually cash in to fix their roster somewhere else? Because you can't have it both ways. Either you believe he's going to be a cornerstone of your lineup, or you're actively shopping him to upgrade elsewhere. The mixed signals coming out of Philadelphia tell you everything you need to know about how complicated this situation really is. Let's start with what actually happened last season, because the numbers tell only part of the story. Boehm hit .287, which sounds fine on the surface. Contact was there. He wasn't striking out at alarming rates, but peel back another layer and the problems become obvious. 11 home runs, 59 RBIs, a 741 OPS. Those are not middle-of-the-order numbers. Those are not the numbers of someone protecting Bryce Harper or Kyle Schwarber. Those are replacement-level production from a guy who's supposed to be a cornerstone. But here's where it gets interesting. The Phillies aren't blaming Boehm for those numbers. They're blaming the injuries. The rib fracture that limited his rotation all season, the shoulder inflammation that robbed him of the torque he needs to drive the ball. These weren't minor nagging issues. These were legitimate problems that affected his swing mechanics for months. And when you look at what Boehm did in 2024 when he was healthy, suddenly the optimism makes more sense. In 2024, Boehm hit .280 with 97 RBIs and a 779 OPS. His OPS plus was 117, meaning he was 17% better than league average. That version of Boehm wasn't just serviceable. He was legitimately good. He lengthened the lineup. He protected the stars. He forced opposing pitchers to think twice about pitching around Harper because they knew Boehm could hurt them. That's the player the Phillies believe is still there, waiting to reemerge when fully healthy. The question is whether that belief is justified or just wishful thinking from a front office that doesn't have the payroll flexibility to fix their roster any other way. Because let's be honest about what's happening here. The Phillies are capped out financially. They can't just throw money at every problem. They can't outbid everyone for the top free agents. They have to find creative solutions, and betting on internal improvement from guys like Boehm is one of the few paths available to them. That's what makes this so risky. They're not choosing to rely on Boehm because it's the best option. They're relying on him because it might be the only option. And when you're a championship contender operating on that kind of margin, every decision gets amplified. If Boehm bounces back, the Phillies look brilliant for trusting him. If he struggles again, the entire season could unravel because they didn't upgrade when they had the chance. The lineup protection issue is real. Last season, the Phillies constantly juggled their batting order trying to maximize Harper and Schwarber. Sometimes Schwarber hit second to protect Harper. Sometimes Harper hit third to protect Schwarber. It was this constant chess match because they didn't have a legitimate third threat in that lineup. Opposing pitchers could navigate around one or both of those guys because they knew what came after them wasn't nearly as dangerous. That's what the Phillies need from Boehm. They need him to be dangerous again, not just competent, not just a guy who makes contact. They need someone who scares pitchers, who changes at bats, who forces tough decisions in high leverage moments. And the version of Boehm from 2024 could do that. The version from 2025 couldn't. Which version shows up in 2026 will determine a lot more than just his own future. And then there's the contract situation, which adds another layer of complexity to everything. Boehm is entering his final year of team control. After this season, he's either getting a long-term extension from the Phillies or he's hitting free agency. That's enormous pressure for any player, but especially for someone who's already under the microscope. Every at-bat this season matters. Every slump will be analyzed. Every hot streak will be dissected. He's auditioning for his next contract in real time, and everyone knows it. Players respond to contract year pressure in different ways. Some guys thrive on it. They use it as motivation and put together career years. Other guys crumble under the weight of expectations. They press too hard, overthink everything, and end up performing worse than usual. We don't know which category Bohm falls into yet because he's never been in this situation before. This is uncharted territory for him, and how he handles it will define his career. Rob Thompson doesn't have time to be patient. That's the reality for the manager right now. After a disappointing end to last season and mounting pressure to deliver a championship, Thompson needs his lineup clicking from day one. He can't afford to let Bohm work through struggles for 6 weeks while hoping he figures it out. The National League East is brutal. The Braves are always dangerous. The Mets are spending. Even the Marlins and Nationals are improving. There's no margin for error. So what does that mean for Bohm? It means his leash is going to be short. Fair or not, that's the situation he's walking into. If he starts slow, the questions will be immediate. Should they sit him more? Should they drop him in the order? Should they explore trade options while he still has value? Those conversations will happen quickly, and Bohm has to know that. The pressure is immense, and it's only going to intensify as the season approaches. The trade rumors complicate everything even further. Every time a team calls about Bohm, it reinforces the idea that maybe he's not untouchable. Maybe the Phillies are willing to move him if the right deal comes along. And that creates this weird limbo where Bohm is simultaneously part of the plan and potentially expendable. That's not an easy headspace for a player to navigate, especially someone trying to prove he deserves a long-term contract. Other teams definitely see value in Bohm. He's young enough to be a building block. He's proven enough to be counted on. He's got team control for one more year, which makes him attractive to contenders and rebuilding teams alike. If the Phillies decided to trade him, they'd get significant interest. The question is what they'd get back and whether it would be worth losing the potential internal improvement they're banking on. That's the strategic dilemma Dombrowski faces. Do you hold on to Bohm and hope he becomes the answer, or do you trade him now while his value is still respectable and use that return to upgrade elsewhere? Maybe you flip him for starting pitching. Maybe you package him for an outfielder. Maybe you use him as the centerpiece in a deal for someone who changes your entire roster dynamic. Those are the kinds of decisions that separate good teams from championship teams. What makes this even more fascinating is that both paths have legitimate merit. If Bohm bounces back, the Phillies save money, strengthen their lineup from within, and prove they know how to develop and trust their own players. If they trade him and land the right piece, they show they're willing to be aggressive and make the tough calls necessary to win now. There's no obviously correct answer, which is why this debate is so compelling. The internal improvement route is attractive because it's clean. No massive contracts, no mortgaging the future, no complicated negotiations. Just a player rediscovering his form and becoming the contributor everyone believed he could be. It's the kind of story fans love because it feels organic. But it's also risky as hell because if it doesn't work, you've wasted precious time in a championship window that won't stay open forever. The trade route is appealing because it's proactive. You identify a need, you address it aggressively, and you don't wait around hoping things work out. But it's also risky because you're giving up on a player who might still have upside, and if Bohm goes somewhere else and puts up massive numbers, the fan base will never let you hear the end of it. That's the nightmare scenario for any front office, watching a guy you traded away become exactly what you needed. So here we are. Spring training is approaching. The roster's mostly set, the payroll is maxed out, and Alec Bohm is standing at the center of it all, knowing this season will define everything. Can he handle the pressure? Can he stay healthy? Can he rediscover the power that made him so valuable in 2024? Can he become the lineup protector the Phillies desperately need? The answers to those questions will shape Philadelphia's entire season. If Bohm delivers, the Phillies are a legitimately dangerous team. If he struggles, they're scrambling to find answers that might not exist. This is what high-stakes baseball looks like. This is what happens when championship windows start closing and every decision carries enormous weight. The fan base is split right down the middle. Some people believe in the bounce back. They point to 2024 and say that's the real Bohm. They trust that health will unlock his potential again. Other people think the Phillies should move him while they can. They worry that waiting is a mistake, that his value will only decrease if he struggles again, and that the team needs to be more aggressive in addressing their weaknesses. Both sides have valid points, and that's what makes this such a compelling storyline. There's no slam dunk answer. Both paths carry risk. Both paths have potential rewards. And whatever the Phillies decide, we'll be analyzing it for years to come. This is Bohm's moment. This is his chance to silence the doubters, to prove he's more than just a guy who had one good year, to show he can handle pressure and deliver when it matters most. Or this is the beginning of the end, the start of a trade saga that sees him shipped out of Philadelphia while fans debate whether it was the right call. Either way, 2026 is going to be one hell of a ride for Alec Bohm and the Phillies. The stage is set. The expectations are enormous. And come opening day, we'll start getting answers to all these questions that have dominated the offseason. Buckle up, because this story is just getting started.